Hi, I'm Josh Bell with the Miami Marlins. I wear NeuroGuard to help with strength and coordination when I'm in the weight room and help with balance when I'm on the baseball field.
One of the most comfortable, reduces concussion, increases performance. You can't get a mouthpiece like that on the market.
Not only is it a great product, it's super easy to use. I recommend it for any player at any age at any level. Thank you guys so much, and go check out NeuroGuard Plus.
NeuroGuard mouthpiece makes it easier to breathe while playing basketball. The unique design is not as bulky as any other mouthpiece and makes you feel safe in concussions.
NeuroGuard. They control my breathing while I'm riding. It stops me getting concussions while I wreck. It's very easy to use, so go pick one up today.
I'm still doing stunts. And with concussions I've got, I feel much safer with that. I'm doing, like I said, I'm doing a whole lot better in the gym. So NeuroGuard Plus, once this one wears out, you've got a customer for life, because I'm telling you people, NeuroGuard Plus is the way to go, and me, Mark Ash, says so.
Parents, kids, coaches, NeuroGuard. It's the future. Stay tuned.
Hey, that was a good point.
I think we might start seeing some go back.
It's week 8. It's time to talk a little 2A football. Hello, everybody. Terry Bennett, Grant Goodwin here. Sideline to sideline, the 2A edition. Right here on L4 Media, brought to you by NeuroGuard Plus and Big Country Blitz. How you doing, man?
Doing great, man. Getting into that part of the season. District started. Playoffs. Playoffs are right around the corner, but, man, there are so many big games to decide. Some of these games right here, they'll decide seeding, right? But also how deep of a playoff run some of these teams can make. Some of these teams are really good, and with the right playoff bracket, they can make deep runs, right?
And I think that's the thing that, as a younger person, as a kid, I didn't really understand.
And speaking of runs, are you feeling better?
Yeah.
Okay.
Wait, what?
From last week, you were sick.
Yeah, but that...
I thought you had
No, this is not. I might after tonight, because I'm actually partaking with you today. But hey, let's be fair.
Okay.
We're happy because of 2 reasons: UT and the weather.
Yes.
Everything else is
not Tennessee, though, right?
No, I refuse to do it. No, I do like Tennessee. I have nothing against Tennessee, Rocky Top, and all that. But great weekend of football. Sunday didn't happen. Nobody played any football games on Sunday. They only played Saturday. But no, that was fun to see UT. It sucks because they're a crappy comeback away from winning 3 in a row from OU and winning 4 of the last 6. But because of that last
Sooner
year,
Magic, as Barry used to say.
Or just Texas collapse.
Well,
either way.
Well, Texas collapse is Sooner Magic.
Yes, you're exactly right.
Our Aggie brethren got to be happy. They were off this past week, but they played themselves right back into the college football.
You can make a case that even if they lose to Texas, if they take care of everything else, that might be enough.
Yeah.
Look, with the way the polling works and everything, and who gets in and who doesn't, the SEC is probably going to have 3 schools in at the minimum.
At the very minimum.
And so, A&M's got to feel good about where they're at. If you're going to lose, and it was always like this, but specifically now, if you're going to lose early. Lose early, get it out of the way, and you got plenty of time, especially being in the SEC, where you're going to get some tough teams. Speaking of tough teams, let's talk a little 2A football. Where do you want to start? Well, we started last week, but where do you want to start from last week?
Okay. Here in 2A, I'm going to start at what was billed as the game of the week last week, right? before we even got into it last week. We didn't even we mentioned this game, didn't hype it up enough. But Gruver Stratford was the game of the week in Class 2A. Outside of maybe Wascom and Beckville,
we'll be talking about that one.
But Gruver Stratford, what a great game that was. Gruver wins 33-26. Gruver actually got out to a big lead in the first half, and Stratford made a big comeback in the second half. The Gruver defense limited Stratford just 215 yards of total offense.
Yeah, Stratford on the year, it's confusing because they're 3-3, but when you look at who they've lost to and you look at who they've played in general, but this is a game that I think the Stratford fans thought, okay, yeah, Gruver's got the pretty record, but look who we've played.
Right.
And then great comeback, but like you bring up the point, and man, that first half, the Greyhounds dominated.
Yeah.
And man, all of a sudden, and I still think Stratford's perfectly fine. How would you like to be that third place team in another district saying, hey, let's just avoid the district champ? Oh, crap, it's Stratford second place.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, we've talked about this. 1-2A Division II at the top. We knew it was going to be Stratford and Gruver, and I don't see that changing. But man, great win for the Greyhounds.
Yeah, man. For Gruver, their quarterback, Briggs Satterfield, had a huge game. 11 of 17 for 220 yards passing with 2 touchdowns, and he ran for 75 and 2 more touchdowns. Linebacker Victor Flores, 10 tackles. I mean, 3 of those for a loss. Just Gruver, I think they're worth their paper.
Oh, yeah, this is a team last year, I think it was Clarendon that beat them in the third round of the playoffs, like 30-31 or something like this, and they have just bounced off of that and continued that role. And I mean, you got to start thinking: are the Greyhounds maybe the Division II, Region 1 favorite out there?
Well, I mean,
they're starting to put the skins on the wall.
They got to be in the discussion, right?
Yeah.
And I would say within the next 2 weeks, you're going to find out. You're going to know for sure. But I mean, they got one of the toughest hurdles of their season out of the way for their regular season, at least, right? Now, going into the playoffs, stay healthy. Sky's the limit for Gruver. Could be in Arlington easily.
Oh, yeah. And now let's go ahead and I do want to zoom all the way over to East Texas to talk that Beckville-Wascom game, because this was one of those things that was kind of a funny joke that we talked about, because I had right before we started recording the Big Arts preview shows this year. And this year was a little different. We ended up having all of our off-season shows basically recorded within 4 days just because of how our schedules worked out. But I had gotten an email, don't even know who it was, never seen it, like, hey, watch out for Wascom this year. And we brought that up on the air. We kind of had a laugh about that, like, hey, yeah, sure, rando person tells us that, we're going to believe it. Well, holy crap.
Yeah.
Wascom pulls off a huge win, and not only beating Beckville, but beating Beckville 31-17, man. Having their way offense.
Left no doubt.
Yeah, left no doubt. I think they had like 425 yards of offense. People talked about when their new coach came in, Wade Lawson, that he was wanting to kind of bring back, that 2014, 2015 Wascom edge, that attitude, that offense. They wanted to grind teams down. And that's what they've done. But what they've also done quietly, man, is outside of the Shelbyville loss, and that's not a bad-looking loss at all, their defense has been amazing. Now, again, they did give up a lot of points to Shelbyville, but, hey, everybody's giving up a lot of points to Shelbyville. They lost to Garrison, but they only gave up 21 in that game. And then, again, shutting down a Beckville team who you and I have been just talking about how well they had diversified that offense after Jacoby Williams graduates and goes to Texas Tech. By the way, I saw him on some freshman All-American list. Really happy for him. But Jordan Prince had stepped in at the running back, and he was putting up PlayStation numbers.
Still is.
And Beckville's going to be fine, folks. But, man, I think this is, again, talking about Gruver, this is Wascom definitely announcing themselves in a region that, we talk about it every week. This region is so deep. I think this region might be better than last year, even with Timpson being a little bit step back and Cooper being a step back. But so many other teams are filling those gaps. Region 3 is going to be a blast this year.
Yeah, it is. Shelbyville 43, Garrison 42.
Again, continuing that, dude.
That might have been the game of the week.
Every once in a while, I like to pat ourselves on the back and literally last week, kind of as a throw-in, we were just like, hey, everybody needs to watch out for Shelbyville. They've quietly put together this really good year, and we'll see what they do against Garrison. And they go out, and as of right now, nobody can stop Shelbyville. Even in their loss, they scored 35, a 1-point loss to Mount Enterprise. Of course, Mount Enterprise is doing their once every 10-year, hey, we're really good this year. But other than that, they scored 53 against 3A Troop, a team that we're going to see this week. They scored 54 on Wascom. Man, Shelbyville. Now, the thing you have to worry about Shelbyville is they give up points. And that always tends to catch these teams in the playoffs. They've got a really important game this week against Timpson because I think Shelbyville might be in the driver's seat for this district right now.
Yeah, very well could be. All right, how about Hawley, 26, Anson, 7. Hawley's quarterback, Keegan Abels, posted 183 yards on 16 attempts. Camden Abels, 3 catches for 60 yards. Hawley finishes with almost 400 yards of total offense. 285 of that was on the ground.
Yeah, Anson really felt good going into this game. They had lost to Albany the last time they played, which is in September. Just one of those weird scheduling quirks right there. But it was 27-17. They'd been, they were unbeaten up into that point. And I think they really thought that they were going to be able to play with Hawley. But, dude, give me Hawley and an Abels kid, and I'm going to win 12 to 13 games and maybe even win state.
You got 2 Abels kids.
Yes, I mean, it's like,
and Keegan.
That's the one thing you and I, we wax poetic nostalgia about, but that's the one thing we love about the small towns. There's always the cousins, brothers lines that usually permeate these great programs. And the Abels have been doing that in Hawley for the last 5 years, and they're going to continue doing that.
Yeah, let's see if Anson can bounce back. They got a big one against Stanford this week that we'll preview in the next segment. All right, Tioga, 34, Whitewright, 27. Tioga's wide receiver, Johnny Gormigas, 152 yards receiving. Jay David, 105 yards receiving. Tioga with 1,419 yards through the air, 186 on the ground. So that was a pretty complete game offensively for Tioga.
I cover 6-2A Division I on our KTR segment we do on 88.9 because of Wool City. And this was a district that at the beginning of the year, everybody thought it was going to be Tom Bean and then Tioga, and then we'll see what Whitewright and Wool City's done. Tom Bean's now 0-3 in the playoff, or in the district. And they've been competitive in all their losses, losing to Auburn last week 10-7. But when you look at the top of that district now, it's Auburn, Tioga, and Wolf City, with Whitewright now coming in as the 4th place team, a Whitewright team that I think a lot of people felt might be a dark horse this year in this region. So 6-2A wasn't on our radar as toughest districts, but it's kind of shown to be a really tough district.
Yeah, if we wouldn't re-rank the districts, that might be in the top 3, right?
Yep.
Speaking of Wool City beating Trenton 48-20 this week. Wool City, don't look now, 5-1.
5-1, again, that big win against Timpson. Their only loss being to Collinsville, and they were competitive in that. And folks, Collinsville is really, really good.
Collinsville's the real deal. We'll talk more about them in the 3A.
Speaking of, in that district,
in the next segment.
In that district, Munster throttling Lindsay 44-0. We talked about it. We felt that we both thought Munster would win the game. By the way, we have a Munster coaches show that you can listen to each and every week at s2ssport.com. Also on our YouTube channel at L4 Media Company. But for Munster to not only have their way offensively, but to shut down maybe one of the best 2A rushing offenses this year, I'm telling y'all, I've been saying it all year, this Munster team this is the best Munster team since the 27th state championship.
Yeah.
Do they win state? I'm not saying
that. Juniors, right?
Yes, and that's the really scary thing.
Yeah.
This is a young team, and I think they're going to be playing for a long, long time this year.
Yeah. Honeygrove 42, Rivercrest 7. Honeygrove quarterback Levi Beavers finished the game 6 of 8 for 120 yards passing and 1 touchdown.
This is your backup quarterback.
Yeah. And he ran 15 times for 153 yards and 1 touchdown. Traylon Bailey, 15 carries for 82 yards and 2 touchdowns while making 4 catches for 91 yards and a touchdown.
And our resident Honeygrove embedded reporter, William Banger, said to me that they're pretty sure they're going to get Ryland Morris back for the Cooper game. More importantly, Dre Pat, who's been out since 7-on-7. So this is one of those things where Honey Grove, we talked about it. If they could just survive these few stretches with injuries,
and they have,
and they've kind of flourished. To be honest with you,
defensive front helps
just
a
keeps
lot.
getting, oh man, you know,
and those linebackers.
Yeah, and by the way, give Cooper credit. They've kind of started figuring things out. I still think that's going to be a way better game than what people might have thought.
Yeah, the encyclopedia told us before the year started that Cooper was going to be down, right? And maybe they're down from where they were last year, but not down like we have here.
I know we keep bringing it up, but that region in the playoffs is going to be bonkers.
Oh, it's going to be fun.
There are so many teams that have skins on the wall that they're going to feel like we're the best, and then you're going to have Shelbyville's and the Wasco. I can't wait for that. I have a feeling if we're going to 2A playoff games, it's probably going to be Region 3 this year.
Oh, absolutely.
And the funny thing is I don't know if any of them will be able to stay on the field with whoever the Region 4 team is.
Right.
But it's still going to be a blast.
Actually, I think they might.
You get a Shelbyville with that offense, man? I'm still worried about that defense. I'm really worried about the defense. But that offense?
I can name 4 right now. I mean, we've already named 4.
Yeah.
We have a good shot at winning a semifinal and make it to Arlington. So, yeah, nobody's out of the driver's seat. All right, Abernathy, 25, New Home, 20. Abernathy went on a 94-yard game-winning drive late in the fourth quarter. Jagger Wiley hit Dreon Duval on a 16-yard touchdown pass with under 2 minutes left in the game. Wiley threw touchdown passes to 4 different receivers. The Abernathy defense was in the backfield the whole night.
Yeah, we were real big on the Antelopes, dropping down from 3A, and they started the year really struggling. 0-2, and they weren't even close. They got destroyed by Stratford. I think it was 46-20. They got shut out by Sunray, and we all love Sunray. But usually when you talk Sunray, you focus on the offense, and they got shut out. But since then, they've been on a 4-game winning streak, and more importantly, being 1-0 in district. And honestly, I know New Deal is down this year compared to where they were, but I still think that was the favorite. Now,
New Home.
New Home. I said New Deal. Sorry, New Home. Now, in saying that, though, look at Post. Post is in that district 6-0, man. This is a team that last year mightily struggled, 1-8. In fact, ever since they were 14-1, I think that was in 2020, they struggled 5-7, 2-7, 1-8. But Coach John Wright has got Post rolling in that district. They're now 6-0. They're 1-0 in district. And so, no, it is New Deal. It's New Deal. The Lion. They're 3-3. And so. That district's kind of been flipped on its side, but Abernathy looks like they're finally starting to figure it out.
All right, let's go some quick hitters real quick. Ropes, 35. Cahokia, 34. Ropes is now 6-0.
Yeah, we had Ropes, what was it, when they played Miles a couple weeks ago, and we kind of talked about that game, and we were curious about what they were going to be and, how they would be once they hit district, and here they are, 6-0.
Yeah, I think the worm turned with that. With that game.
Well,
I think Ropes starting to feel it after that one.
And they're one of those teams, man, that they've been locked at that 6-5, 7-4, 6-5, but they came back with 17 starters this year, and I think again they feel like they're a team that can make a 4 or 5 round run in the playoffs.
Yeah, Albany 47, Miles 15, Lovelady 41, Overton 21. Maybe the most low key impressive win in all of 2A this week for me is Lovelady doing that to Overton. A really solid, athletic Overton team with tons of speed, and Lovelady comes in and wins by 3 touchdowns, just going away, basically.
I think people kind of wrote them off because they lost to Timpson 50-48, and they lost to Garrison 28-14. Mm-hmm. And, you and I, we talked about what Overton was, last year, and we thought, Overton has a lot coming back, and, Coach Scotty Lamance has done a really good job there. They had 14 returning guys from a 10-2 team. But I don't want to say something's off because they've only got 2 losses, but something is off with Overton.
Cornbread's not all the way cooked in Overton.
There you go. I like that.
Something's going to – I think they're going to be fine. They'll find answers for their ills.
And they're in a bye week this week, which I think is perfect for them.
Yeah, I think they're still dangerous in this region and still could be a threat to make Arlington as well.
But you're right about Lovelady. Nobody talks about Lovelady. Lovelady over the last 2 years is 25-2. Now, not counting this year. Now, if you had that be 29-4. They're 4-2 this year, but more importantly, they're 2-0 in district. everybody's kind of wrote them off because of the over 10. And again, Mount Enterprise, look at Mount Enterprise on the year. They're 5-1, though they did, after really good wins against really solid teams like Shelbyville, they then laid one of the biggest just turds against Graveland in the Stark District, getting beat that was the second week, getting beat 44-0. So that came out of nowhere. But yeah, Lovelady, man, again, nobody's talking about them.
Right. Yeah. All right. Windthorst 28, Archer City 8. Nice win for Windthorst, the Trojans.
They're that classic team. They play teams like Munster in the non-district. They're going to get bruised and beat up a couple times. They lost to Anson 50-28. They lost to, that's Archer City lost to Anson. I was going to say that didn't sound right. Windthorst's only loss was to Munster. It was pretty bad. I think it was like 50-14 or something like that. But inside this district, Windthorst's now 3-0. I'm pretty sure it's going to come down to them and Electra in a couple weeks.
Yeah, Electra keeps rolling.
Yeah, they're 6-0 right now.
Yeah. All right. I think that does it for the review, right?
Yep.
All right. Preview a few big games here in 2A. This week, let's start with Falls City and Shiner, man. Falls City, Braylon Johnson, quarterback, stud, man, averaging 12 yards a carry.
Shiner's just not Shiner of old, but they're still a pretty solid team.
They're 3-3, and they lost their first 3 games of the season.
Really competitive.
Hallettsville, Rice Consolidated, and Poth. 2 of those being really, really darn good 3A teams.
Well,
Hallettsville's struggling.
Yeah.
But Rice Consolidated and Poth, look how they played Poth within 1 touchdown. And let me tell you, I saw Poth on video against Falls City and was very impressed with Poth and Falls City. So with Shiner losing to Poth like that, tells me they're going to be salty enough to be in this game.
Well, and that losing that Rice Consolidated game, it sounds bad, 23-0. But if I remember correctly,
Rice Consolidated hadn't given up points the first 4 or 5
yeah,
games.
it was like 6-0 at half. And you brought up Hallettsville, and I know it's 3A, but they've been really weird because they're sitting at 2-5, but every game they've been competitive in. Right. Every game except for like one has been a 1-possession game. So yeah, I agree. Shiner is deceptive, but in saying that, I like the Beavers in this game.
I do. Sorry. I don't know. Give me Shiner in this one.
I have no problem.
I think this one. I think you just picked Falls City because of their name, their mascot.
Yeah, that's it.
I'm going off the football.
If you want to hate Beavers, okay. So is this not every Texan's choice? Beaver or Shiner? Beaver or Shiner?
Shiner are the Comanches, and they will skin the Beavers.
I was talking about Comanche part.
All right, our Ann 6-0 taking on I believe 6-0. Is it 6-0 or 5-0 Wink? I know Wink is undefeated. This right here. I don't know how much this game's getting talked about statewide, but it needs to be. This is one of the top, if not the top game in the state, one of the top 2 or 3. Iran 6-0. Their quarterback, Prather Sheenman, has about 1,700 yards passing on the year. Chris Quintero, the receiver, averages 36 yards a catch, and then they got a really good running back in Tristan Griffin. Wink with Kemed Facine at running back, who is just tearing it up. Lane Busby at quarterback, and then that wing linebacker, Hudson Morgan, about 11 tackles per game. Wink is loaded for bear. Iran's offense is just putting up crazy numbers. Who do you like in this?
Well, Iran last year, they finished 4-6 and they missed the playoffs. But when you pull back and you look, they lost by 3 to Sterling City. They lost by 7 to Water Valley. They lost by 1 to McCamey. That's your playoff right there. If you just win one of those games. This year, they flipped that and they've been just destroying teams. Now, they haven't been destroying great teams. Wink, everybody thought once they lost their running back, that was going to be it for them. Creed French, great dude. 2 years ago they went 12-1. Last year they only went 10-2 because they were, I don't think it was upset, but they were beat by Munster. I guess it technically was kind of an upset at the time because Munster was a team full of sophomores. But again, that's a Munster team that lost to Albany after basically controlling that game for a whole game. I like Wink in this one. I like what Iran's doing. I think that the Braves are going to be a playoff team. I think I mean, just by this district, it's them, Wink, and Sterling City, and then everybody else. But I'm really impressed with Wink when everybody thought this was going to be a step back year, and yet here they are, ranked number 8 in the state.
Yeah, and I think that Wink defense is going to slow down the Iran offense just enough, right? So I like Wink in a close one.
Yep.
All right, Lindsay and Collinsville. This is a tasty matchup. Lindsay 4-2, Collinsville undefeated 6-0. Lindsay's 2 losses were to Leonard 34-27 and to Munster 44-0. That one's not pretty, but it was to Munster. Collinsville, great running game, can throw the ball. Not completely balanced, but pretty darn balanced, I guess. In the grand scheme of things, I mean, Garrett Trevino, running back, really good. But at linebacker, he's a playmaker at linebacker. And then Jackson Jenkson and Chad Davidson. Jenkins, the quarterback, and Davidson, a really good receiver.
Again, what Coach Patterson and them having, we keep talking about Armando Luan and Sunray, but Logan Jenkins at Collinsville was everything before,
right?
And for them to be able to just flip that switch and become more of a power set out of the same spread, they're still running the same concepts, they still throw the ball, but to be able to run the ball like they did, it's one of those.
And they can still throw it.
They can still throw it when they need to, yes. But I think it makes them
500 yards.
Yes, exactly. But I think it makes them a better team this year.
Yeah, I do too. They're scary good.
I was really big on Lindsay. I felt Munster would beat them, and I even felt Munster would beat them convincingly last week. But for them to shut them out, it kind of tells me I think Collinsville might have their way in this one.
Yeah, they could be. When you're able to do whatever you need to do on offense, I mean, look at the Detroit Lions. Right?
Oh, really? You just have to.
Well, I mean, it's a good comparison.
But no, it really is. It really is.
You take one thing away, you probably not even take it away. You might slow it down, but we'll go into plan B, and we're not going to throw it in the flat or deep.
Yep.
We're going to run the football. Oh, you want to put 15 guys in the box? All right, we'll hit you over top. And I think Collinsville can do that, and the Collinsville defense seems to be playing really well.
That's a good point. And with Collinsville, you get caught up in that offense. When you look at what they've done defensively, at times holding Cooper to 2, holding Coleman, and I know Coleman's down this year to 6. But then you got the game like with Wolf City where they win, but they give up 42 points. Now, to be fair, it was 55-42, and if there's a Collinsville fan that wants to let us know that it might have been like a blowout, just email us, grant@terrythisdoesmore.com.
All right, West Texas versus Panhandle. Panhandle enters the game 6-0. West Texas 5-1. So Panhandle has the big game next week against Sunray, right?
Yep.
So when you're taking on a 5-1 Stinnett West Texas, you cannot allow this to be a trap game because it's almost like Texas having OU and Georgia back to back.
Yeah.
You have to be focused 100%. You cannot let this be a trap game, right? I think Panhandle will be fine coming out of this. I think they win this ball game, but I don't know how close it is. What do you think? 14, 21 points? Or I think it's closer.
I think Panhandle names their score. Look, I like what Stinnett West Texas is doing this year, 5-1 after multiple years of being 3-7, 3-7, 0-10. 2019 and 2018, they were a really solid team. We talked about them a lot. They went 3-4 rounds. They haven't lately. They're going to make the playoffs, but when you look at who they've beaten, the scores they beat, like beating Shamrock 62-50, that tells me Panhandle will name their score. Now, in saying that, because I'm not going to be able to go, but because you're going out hopefully to see Panhandle and Sunray, it would be the most sideline thing for Panhandle to get beat 25.
Right.
I don't think it's going to happen.
No, I don't think so either. All right, Hamilton versus Ballinger. Hamilton enters the game undefeated at 6-0. Ballinger 4-2, I believe. Is it going to be a good one right here? This was tough.
Hamilton has, I say quietly, they're state ranked, but when you look at where they're at in the region and you look at everybody else, that area kind of gets forgotten about.
Yeah.
But I mean, they're doing what they need to do. They're 6-0. I'm a little concerned that that they beat Coleman last week by 21-14, and Coleman's 0-6. Now again, you make the case Coleman's playing one of the toughest schedules in 2A, but still 0-6, and a lot of those not being competitive, like getting beat 53-6 by Mason, getting beat 52-6 by Collinsville. So I do take a little pause that Hamilton at home struggled with them. But in saying that, I still think the Bulldogs are at least 3 scores better than Ballinger.
Yes, I don't know about 3 scores. I think this one's nip and tuck. I think it could be one possession.
Yeah.
I'm just leaning Hamilton, but wouldn't be surprised to see the Bearcats pull it out. All right, Schulenburg, 4-2, taking on Ganado. This ought to be a good one, man. Ganado's quarterback, Bryce Allman, Logan Burris at running back, and then Caden Hayden at receiver. Those 3 right there have been pretty unstoppable the last 2 years, right? So, and their defense, pretty good. Ganado played a very tough schedule to start the year.
It's kind of weird how, that East Bernard loss, not for us, but that East Bernard loss kind of knocked them off the radar, even though they're still a top 5 team. But when I'm reading and seeing what other people are saying about that area in 2A Division
Look at East Bernard, they're undefeated.
Exactly. And
in 3A.
Yeah, I guess people just thought, it's Ganado, and look what they've done the last few years. But them and East Bernard, when they play, is usually a 50-50 game. I kind of feel like we're going to get Ganado being Ganado. They're going to roll in this game.
Yeah, this is at home for the Indians, right? I think Ganado will come out and name I'm not going to say name their score, but it'll be about 2-3.
I think it'll be close to and we only use these for calibration. You can't use these for fact. But when you start looking at Schulenburg beat Weimar or lost to Weimar 27-14, and Ganado beat Weimar 41-0.
Yeah,
just a little bit of calibration right there. Just going to give you an idea.
All right, the last one of the night for Class 2A is 6-0 Stanford taking on 4-2 Anson over in Anson on Friday night. Anson's losses were to Albany and Hawley, right? So
no shame in
that. They lost to Albany 27-17, Hawley 26-7. Stanford's coming back though with Christian Duran at quarterback, Caston Vega at fullback, one of the best fullbacks in Class 2A, if not the best. Braden Jimenez at receiver. Stanford's just loaded, man.
Dude.
And I think they're going to take it out on Anson this week. Stanford, 2 or 3 touchdowns.
Yeah, at least. It might even be more.
Yeah.
Again, we calibrate. You don't hold it for fact, but when you look at who the 2 teams have played, and Stanford destroyed Albany 50-6 to begin the year. And Albany, of course, is way better this year. I mean, way better now than they were. But 2 weeks ago, Anson lost 27-17.
Yeah.
For all the talk about Region 3 in 2A Division 1 and Region 4 because of Ganado, Stanford's the number 1 team in 2A Division 1. And it's starting to feel like, I'm not saying they're pulling a Mark type season, but it feels kind of like, is anybody going to be within 3 touchdowns?
Yeah, nobody East wants to go West and play Stanford.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah.
I think that's going to do it for this week, man. I want to remind everybody, if you have any questions, thoughts, or comments, email the show, grant@terry.s2sport.com. If you're watching and you only need to be able to only listen 1 week, just check out s2sgrantterry.com. And if you only listen and you're curious to see how ugly we are, just go to youtube.com/@L4 Media Company. Until next week, he's Grant, I'm Terry. This is Sideline to Sideline, the 2A edition on L4 Media.